Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Jim Roman Show, where we talk about how to build a better business to build a better life. I'm Jim Roman, your host, and we want to welcome you. If you've been joining us for this month, we've been doing a series called Coffee with a Coach. That's where we drink coffee and answer your coaching questions. If you joined us in the first week, we had Don Whitestone talking about rare leadership, getting people to follow you. What a great topic. What a great coach. In week 2, we had Kay Congdon talk about hiring right for retention. So often people trying to find the right people, but they rarely vet out the wrong people. And she talked about the process of hiring before, during, and after. And last week, we had Jennifer Perro talking about people and performance as it relates to processes. It's how Chick-fil-A, McDonald's be able to deliver across the country the same type of service in the same level of speed. And processes are big and make a difference for doing that. And then this week's guest speaker for Coffee with a Coach is yours truly, Jim Roman, where we talk about growing and going beyond capacity. And so let's jump into it today. So Jim, yes, Jim, let me ask you the first question. How did you come up with the topic growing or going beyond capacity? Well, that's a great question, Jim. It came to me years ago. I realized that companies go through 3 levels of capacity. And it was intriguing because so often when I see someone reach capacity, I always want to know how to solve for that. So one of the first questions is, what do we mean by capacity? Well, capacity is either A, you've got a bottleneck, you're growing your business and you've hit a wall, or it's that you have more work than you can do personally if you are a solopreneur, entrepreneur. And so capacity is the ability to get the work done while growing your business. And I find so often that people have a capacity crunch. And one of the things we want to figure out is how to get you beyond that capacity. For those of you who follow us, you know that we have the 9 stages of business ownership. You can actually download a free copy of our 9 stages ebook to learn more about it. But essentially the 9 stages are in the beginning stages, the business owns you, you're at capacity. The later stages, you own it, you've grown beyond capacity and then some. And these talks and these seminars and bringing you Coffee with a Coach series is to really help you get beyond capacity to get through the stages of business ownership so that you can build a better life. So capacity is the ability to get the work done either yourself or the ability to get the work done by other people. And I have found that there are 3 things that typically happen for people going through capacity. Number 1, their first capacity issue is bringing business in. As they grow, it's then getting the work done. And then the final capacity is now creating raving fans beyond the business, beyond the transaction, and usually people hit those walls. So that's what I would say capacity is, and what I would do to solve for that. Next question, Jim. Yes, Jim. How often does this happen to a business? Well, capacity crunches happen quite often, depending on your personality, your leadership, how quickly you want to grow. But I find there are 3 major things that happen. As I mentioned a moment ago, you're bringing in business, and then you get to a point where you can't get the work done. You need to hire somebody. Then you hire someone, and the next capacity crunch is taking the time to mentor them. Then if bringing in more business, getting the work done, then you want to be able to have a life beyond the business, but you can't free yourself up from the business because the capacity depends partly on you. So if you can solve for those, then it makes the biggest difference. So that would be my answer to the question on how often. It happens quite often, but the 3 major challenges or issues or walls that people face is they're bringing in business, they can't get the work done anymore by themselves. Now they are getting other people to get the work done while they're still trying to bring in business. But the challenge there is that they're not getting it done in a timely manner. And then the third is freeing you up from the business so you can go enjoy your fruits of your labors and trusting your leadership to do that. So that's the answer to that question. Great, Jim. Next question. What can you do about these capacity crunches and how can you solve for them? Great question. So how can you solve for them? It depends on what size you are. Going back to the 9 stages of business ownership that we reference in the ebook, the 9 stages, I would say in the beginning stages, say stages 2 to 4, your focus should be on bringing in business. Then when you get to stages 4 to 6, you should be focusing on getting the work done by other people. And then stages 6 to 8, you should be able to have other leaders run your business while you're freed up to do other things inside the business or outside the business that you've always wanted to do. So let's just talk about the beginning stages, those who are maybe small size companies. What you might want to do is make sure that you're focusing your efforts on bringing in business on a regular, consistent basis. I find that so often one of the capacity crunches that people face is they bring in business, stop to get the work done. And then when they're getting the work done, they need to bring in more business, and that's where they're hitting a crunch. So if it were me, and in the beginning stages of a business, I would want to make sure I'm blocking my time, scheduling my time, that a percentage of it is more on bringing in business than anything else. So that's what I would do in the early stages. Now, as I grow bigger, I would want to start to hire. And again, if you reference session 2 of this series with Kay Congdon, she talked about hiring the right people and the process that goes behind that. Now, who should you hire next, I think, is the capacity crunch. So now I'm at capacity. I bring in a business, I'm at capacity, I can't get it all done. What do I do next? Again, it depends on what size company you are, what your talents and skills are, but just say hypothetically, overall, the first thing I would want to be doing is getting things off my plate that I don't enjoy doing or is not the highest, best use of my time. Okay. For example, I share many of the episodes we've done before that the first thing I got off my plate was my bookkeeping and my taxes. I am not good at bookkeeping. I hate bookkeeping, and I don't know anything about taxes. So one of the first things I did was get that off my plate. Where most people, a lot of people, I should say, keep on doing their own taxes, their own bookkeeping, because they don't know how to delegate it, or they want to have control of that. There's so many reasons why people hold on to their bookkeeping, accounting, and I think that could be a challenge. I remember talking to someone about giving up their bookkeeping, go, well, I need to know my numbers. I need to make sure we're profitable. I mean, I know that I'm profitable every single day. Even though someone else does my bookkeeping and my taxes, I can look at my QuickBooks every day, every week to see how we're doing. There's a whole conversation on that and how to go about that. But if you're asking me if I want to get past the first capacity beyond bringing in business is to get stuff off my plate. So what? I can bring in more business. So bookkeeping is just an example of that. Just an example of that. What else? So bringing in business, getting the work done. The next thing I might get off my plate is my scheduling. I use a software called Calendly. Calendly is a great way to get your appointments scheduled. So I have leads coming in. People want our coaching services, want to find out how our coaching services can help them grow their business, get beyond capacity. And so my assistant will send out a Calendly link to schedule them. And I can send that link out at any time that people can schedule 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Why is this important? Before, I would have to get the lead, qualify the lead, schedule the lead, and then do the prospect appointment. Or when someone says, I'm interested in your service, I go, great, let's schedule a time. Here's the link. I go to bed. Next thing you know, it's scheduled. I don't know about you, but I used to chase leads regularly and consistently, phone tag and voicemail tag and email tag. With Calendly and other softwares like that, it's done for me. I just send them the link. Then the third thing is I delegated to get beyond capacity so I can bring in more businesses. I hired a wonderful assistant, an executive assistant to help me with client care notes, following up on my appointments and confirming those appointments using Calendly software, as well as work on some special projects that I don't get time to do because I'm traveling the country or speaking regularly or just doing coaching client stuff. And so for me, to answer the question of what can you do to solve some of the capacity crunches, if you're small and just growing, make sure you're bringing in business on a regular, consistent basis. So make sure a percentage of your time is on that more than anything else. Then when you get to the point where you can't handle the workload anymore, then that is getting things off your plate, like bookkeeping, like taxes, like scheduling, like follow-ups on various things. And that will start to get you beyond the capacity. Now, the question you're going to ask me now is in the middle stages of a business is what do you do with people and performance? Say I want to hire an actual person. How do I go about that? Well, number one, go listen to Kay's episode on hiring right for retention. But the next step is when you bring people on board, it's making sure that you organize your business in such a way that it can actually increase your capacity. In other words, if you're going to get the capacity, some people need to organize their time, organize their work, or organize their business. Let's just talk about time. I wrote an article recently, Saving Time to Give You More Time, on our blog. You want to check that out. I've also wrote an article on Let Go to Grow, and those two articles are really great about capacity and helping you in those middle stages when you're bringing enough business in, but you can't get all the work done. And so Saving Time to Make Time and Letting Go to Grow are two wonderful blogs that will help you to talk about that. In those blogs, it talks about how to organize your time, which I won't go over, read that blog, and how to organize your work. And that also is in those articles. I want to talk about how you organize your business. One of the things in organizing your business as you grow and you have now 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you might want looking at an organizational structure, an organizational chart. If you've heard us in previous episodes, we talked about the 5 functions of a business. Those 5 functions are, number 1, you need to bring in business. Number 2, you need to hire and train people to what? Get the work done. Number 4, you need to do admin finance to get paid. And then if you're entrepreneur enough and you get ahead and proactive enough, you then create raving fans beyond the transaction. And so if it were me and I were you, one of the ways of getting beyond capacity, hiring right, is have an organizational structure, not only now, but in the future. I would think would make the biggest difference for you. So again, going back to the organizational chart of the 5 functions, bringing a business, hiring and training, developing, getting the work done, admin financing, and creating raving fans, what you want to be able to do is start to delegate some of these things. In fact, you might get to a point where you start becoming more of a business, and then you start to departmentalize and division-izing your business. For example, in property management, I might have 3 property managers that manage my properties, each handling at least 150 to 200 each. If I am in, say, remodeling business or a handyman business or construction business, I might divide my business up into 3 departments or 3 divisions, one for small jobs, projects, and large jobs. Small jobs being minor repairs, projects being a to-do list, a checklist, a punch list. And then the larger jobs might be renovations. Why? Because the small jobs don't require a high level of skill, where the projects may need a specialist or 2. And then the renovations, you're really going to need to know people who know what they're doing. And so departmentalizing, divisionizing, or some hybrid of that may be a huge key giving you capacity, because eventually what you ultimately want to do is start to delegate things out. And what I say to people is you want to go for green. In other words, the 3rd phase of going beyond capacity, freeing you up beyond your business, is getting your team to go for green. We use this example as red, yellow, green. Green means you have the best person in the right position, good to go. You don't have to worry about that. You have yellow are people who could go either way. They're either new and in training and they're getting some traction, or they're a veteran and maybe they're wavering a little bit. And then red is that you probably have to let them go or get them an immediate amount of training. And so one of the ways of getting capacity I have found is be able to go for green. I'll give you another perspective on this. If you're a small business owner and you look at the 5 functions we just talked about a moment ago, how many of those are you doing right now? If it's all of them, well, then we need to work on that. Or I would recommend you start to get things off your plate. Now, have you been in business for a while? What if I were to ask you, if you were to stop working today, how long will your business run itself? 2 minutes? 2 hours? 2 days if you're lucky? A lot of times when I ask people, if you stop working today, how long your business will run without you, they would say it doesn't. And if it does, it probably wouldn't grow without them. And that's the 3rd level of capacity, freeing you up to do the things you want to do in the business as well as outside the business. So hopefully some of those tips and tricks will help you. As I look at the questions on our session here, I have one last thing I want to share with you, because there's one final piece of this whole puzzle of getting beyond capacity. So as I look up the questions, I'm just going to recap what we've talked about. The first thing that we talked about, as you know, is we talked about in the beginning stages of capacity consideration is focusing on bringing in business. Stop allowing other distractions to get in the way of you growing. And as you grow, you're going to get to a point where you can't get all the work done. Don't stop growing. Push past it. Delegate. Whether it's a virtual assistant, a virtual employee, vendors, suppliers, softwares, and solutions like that, or actually people on your team. And then eventually start to create an organizational chart, not only for now, but into the future, so you can aspire to be able to see all the things that you would want to be able to do when you get yourself freed from the business. The final thing I want to share with you in this episode of Growing Capacity is the mental elements of capacity. Again, if we're going to get you through the 9 stages of business ownership and help you to go for green, as we talked about moments ago, a lot of times it's organizationally a capacity issue. The way you organize your business, organize your work, organize your time. There's also another side to that, and that's the mental aspect of it, the mental capacity that you can handle at any given time. One of my favorite quotes, I'm told Einstein has said this, don't know for sure, but he said, the brain is for thinking, not for storing. Let me say that again. The brain is for thinking, not for storing. So often we're running our lives, running our businesses in our head, and it's filling up with capacity. Whereas if we get those thoughts and ideas down on paper, I believe, and I have experience, it will free up some of your capacity. I know firsthand when I started taking the thoughts in my head and putting it down on paper under the 5 functions. By the way, you can get the 5 functions on Business Owners University, our Start Here program. It's a free program where you can get the 9 stages template, the 5 functions, the 5 drivers. It's free. You can get those documents that I've been talking about. But in there, it talks about is the 5 functions and writing them down on paper. So one day I did that. I said, what do I have to do for bringing a business? What do I have to do for hiring and training? What do I have to do with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? And I got it down on paper. And oh my God, by just doing that, and putting it into departments, divisions, and categories, it made a world of difference because it first organized my thoughts. True story, days later, I had a new idea. In fact, I was shocked. I was like going, oh my God, I have a new idea. I haven't had a new idea in a great time. Now that sounds crazy, but oh my God, the only thing I did differently was I freed up my mind to give myself room to think. And so for some of it's a mental issue, and we need to free up our thoughts and free up our mind. And I encourage you to consider going to the Start Here program, downloading the documents, pulling out the 5 functions and categorizing your thoughts in those 5 functions. And don't believe me, do it. And then tell me if it worked. I believe it will. These episodes are about helping you, again, build a better business so you can build a better life. And I want that for you. The other aspect of mental issue is trying to go from $200,000 of revenue to $250,000 of revenue, or from $500,000 in revenue to 700, or $1 million to millions. A lot of times, other than organizational structure, it's mental structure. I remember working with someone, they were doing $200,000 in revenue, $225,000 actually. And I said to him, I need you to push into 250. I need you to push into 250. I can't. And I said, yes, you can. Yes, you can. We've done all the principles of the micro to millions process. You can do it. And so he pushed through it, got to 255. And he goes, oh my God, that was not as hard as I thought it was. I'm like, I don't know if you saw your face. But sometimes it's you need somebody to push you past your mental limits, your physical limits, and things like that. And so I encourage you, if you don't have a coach, get a coach. If you need a hiring coach, reach out to Kay. If you need a process coach, reach out to Jennifer. If you need a micro to millions coach, reach out to me. Because no one's ever been successful on their own. I always say, Lone Ranger didn't do it by himself. He had Tonto and he had Silver. So as we come to a close of this series, hopefully you've gotten something out of it. For those of you who are watching us today or watching the recording, please comment below. What is one thing that you got out of today's episode? Or comment on the previous episodes. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, please go to jimromanonline.com and sign up for our newsletters. We'll be sending out a special issue, if you will, of all these series. So you can click on the links to hear Kay, hear Don, hear Jennifer, and myself. And finally, please let us know how we're doing. Let us know what other topics you want us to cover. We have so much more to share, from going from micro to millions while having a life, how to hire right, which we recently done, and then any other topics that will help you build a better business to build a better life. Again, comment below, question, reach out to us. Please use our free resources. And as always, if you need that level of support, please reach out to one of my certified business coaches or myself so we can offer you a complimentary coaching session on your biggest challenge. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We thank you so much for being a part of this community. Again, my name is Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we all grow. God bless and have a great rest of your day.